Hello SpaceWatchers and welcome back to Space Cafe Radio. This is Emma and today I'm gonna give you my personal top 10 of the most important and influential events in space during 2021. Please bear in mind that A, like all lists, this is a personal and subjective list. And B, I have a scientist background, so I'm biased towards that sector. So without further ado, at number 10 we have...
Okay, so welcome everyone, and thank you for participating at this short press briefing. So today's topic is ESA Agenda 2025.
Changing leadership at both ESA and NASA. 2021 has been an eventful year for space politics. Two of the most important space agencies in the world, NASA and ESA, have seen a change in leadership. Bill Nelson has become the 14th NASA administrator, and on the European side, Josef Aschbacher has become the Director General of ESA on March 2021. Nelson brought back climate change on NASA's agenda, something that had gone missing during the Trump era, and is trying to keep the doors open with China and Russia in the name of science, trying to mitigate the pressure coming from the much less collaborative-oriented Department of Defense. Aschbacher, on his side, set up an agenda that wants to maintain Europe at the center of the space sector, trying also to follow the example of the US and implement the collaboration between government and private sector. So if I can sum up both current leadership in one phrase, I would probably say that the right term is open to business. Number 9. Nauka modules on the ISS. On July 2021, Russia sent its biggest space laboratory ever launched. Nauka, which means science, is a laboratory module that was built as an addition to the ISS, and it will serve as Russia's main research facility on the space station. It's also bringing to the ISS another oxygen generator, a spare bed, another toilet, and a robotic cargo crane built by the European Space Agency, which looks like an arm. Why I think this is important? Well, firstly, because it was conceived as a project in the 90s, so it spent over 2 decades waiting on the ground getting outdated. It's a proof of how difficult it can be to bring a project into space. Second, because it does what space business was meant to do in first instance, alas, testing and showing off the technical capabilities of a country. With this launch, Russia let us know that it's still in the game. And secondly, I think it's important because it highlights the more profound meaning of the ISS, a trustworthy and peaceful collaboration between US, Russia, Europe, Japan and Canada. The ISS still stands as an example of how space cooperation should be, and to me, Nauka is part of it. Number 8. UN Committee Permanent Working Group. By the end of the year, a UN panel agreed to create an open-ended working group aimed at preventing an arms race in space, which is a major concern for all of us. The group was proposed by the United Kingdom with support from nearly 40 countries, including the United States, and just this should give you the magnitude of the importance of this step. I think this is important because it was about the time that the UN finally decided for an institutionalized approach to the issue of military activities in outer space. And please note that this came even before the very recent Russian Assad attack, which I will describe later on. So I think this was a necessary step, and I'm now looking forward to see where it takes and how it will develop. And number 7 is Thales Alenia Space deal. Thales Alenia Space is one of Europe's largest space companies, but they started 2021 with a bang. A Telesat deal to build and manufacture 298 constellation satellites. The contract is worth $3 billion. I selected this news not because this was the only multi-billion contract in the space private sector, but more because the deal between Thales and Telesat is quite historical, and it does consolidate the leadership of Thales in the space sector in Europe. Plus, Thales Alenia Space has 33% of Italian blood in it, so maybe I was biased. For Italian blood, I mean that 33% of Thales Alenia Space is composed by the Italian private space company Leonardo. Number 6.
And we have ignition. Starship heading back to the landing zone.
Starship for a successful landing. In May 2021, the SN15 became the first Starship prototype to finally survive a high-altitude launch. The SN15 lifted off from SpaceX Boca Chica facilities in Texas. The rocket lifted, reached its peak altitude at around 6 miles above surface, and then dropped the motor dead, turned horizontal, then turned the engines on again to move back to vertical, and then landed on a set of tiny legs more or less in the same spot where it took off, in this way becoming the first surviving Starship prototype. Why I chose this news? Because the ability of the Starship to land is fundamental for its role on the future Artemis mission, so this was a giant leap. There is still a lot of work to do, obviously. Starship will need to demonstrate it can refuel itself in orbit before flying to the lunar surface and prove it can use a different set of thrusters to ease itself down on the surface of the moon. So it's a long way to go, but let's see where 22 takes us on this. And this was definitely a very important step. Now getting in the hot zone of the chart, number 5.
Welcome to space.
To all you kids down there, I was once a child with a dream, looking up to the stars.
First commercial and tourist flights. Yes, 2021 has been the year of the old rich man in space. What I mean for this is that the summer headlines have been dominated by the news that commercial and tourist space flights were a thing. And they were. Blue Origin, SpaceX, Virgin Galactic all had tempted, and in some cases succeeded, in getting very rich members of the public to pay hundreds and thousands of dollars. And I'm not kidding, the numbers are crazy. Business Insider reported that allegedly a ticket on Virgin Galactic Unique will cost passengers $250,000 apiece. And Virgin Galactic is the cheapest one. A seat on Blue Origin's New Shepard was auctioned off at $28 million in June of 2021, and the 4 passengers traveling to the ISS on SpaceX Crew Dragon will pay a cool $55 million ahead. But they will get personal hygiene products, so let's not get mothy about it. But you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm generally not bitter about it, as long as it doesn't hurt anyone and it's safe for the crew, for them, for the environment, and as long as the people working in this line of work are respected and paid properly, and as long as this money are distributed and used for the progress of the space exploration and for the good of humanity, alas, they are not used to promote further social inequalities, I'm okay with that. Today is a niche, tomorrow will be all of us. Pizza was not invented for all of us, was invented for a queen. And now look at where we are at today. And number 4 is...
SpaceX on console to have a conversation on direct to ground about forward actions if we do have a hit.
And during Houston, yes, SpaceX is on console.
If it's under half an hour, we were thinking about coming back on the station. If it's more than half an hour, we were thinking stay suited and potentially come back home. This is all instant transit.
Russian has that satellite hack. At the end of November 2021, the space sector woke up with a very cold shower. Russia decided to test a NASA system hitting its own satellite and creating more than 1,500 pieces of debris that are now floating in lower orbit. This came in the middle of a rising tension between Russia, Europe, and the US. In those days, and still now as far as I'm aware of, Russia was getting ready to invade Ukraine, Europe was watching, and the US were getting worried. So whether this attack was part of a strategic plan or space military weapon testing, or just a much more broader war strategy, it is generally unknown. Only Russia knows it, and maybe not even them. However, given the rising role of space for strategic warfare and the rising tension between China and the US, and between Russia and Europe for many reasons, not all space-related, it should not surprise that Russia made such a theatrical move. In my opinion, this is just the beginning of a hot phase, let's put it in that way, in space and state diplomacy, and it should be taken into very serious consideration by the UN and by all the governing bodies involved with space regulations. Okay, top 3. Which are the 3 single most relevant events of 2021? Number 3. China's Zhurong rover landing on Mars. This, to me, is a proper milestone. China is the second country after the US to land a rover on Mars. The difficulties and the technical challenges to land a heavy robot on another planet are huge, and China made it. So this is gonna have, in my opinion, a huge impact on the space power game. It confirms that China is in for the race against the US. So if space was nothing but a proper peacock display, I would say that China just won a very colorful tale. Top 2. What is the second most relevant space achievement or space event of 2021? In my opinion, number 2, there can be nothing but.
À tous de DDO, attention pour les décomptes finales. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, unité, top. Allumage start. And allumage AP, décollage.
The James Webb Space Telescope. After years of delays, the James Webb Space Telescope was launched on Christmas Day in what The Guardian defined as the most nervously watched liftoff in the history of uncrewed space exploration. I put this in second place because this is the most ambitious space telescope in history. It's the successors of the Hubble and is one of those once-in-a-generation scientific projects that can define a field for decades to come and possibly even rewrite it forever. At home we have a Hubble photographic book, hundreds of pages of incredible pictures of the universe like we never saw it. I just can't wait to see what the web will show us, and I just want to keep dreaming of new frontiers for humanity. And number 1, the most exciting, important event in space in 2021 for me was
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the signs of past life.
Perseverance landing on Mars. As a geochemist, I could not help myself if not putting Perseverance landing in February 2021 as the top event of this year. I followed the landing, it gave me the chill down my spine, and honestly, the rover seems discovering new pieces of Mars geological history every day, at every step. This is fantastic. To me, Perseverance is a huge achievement for the human race and a new exciting milestone towards our journey to Mars and beyond. So go Perseverance and go Mars. And that was it. This was my personal top 10 of the most influential and important event in space for 2021. If you disagree with me, which you will probably, and I know it, please feel free to write your personal top list on our social media. We love the engagement from our Space Watcher community. I wish you all a fantastic 2022, and please do not stop to listen and support SpaceWatch.Global, your go-to platform if you are in search of excellent information, independent point of views, and all-around the globe perspective about space. This is Emma, and till next time, ciao! order to avoid to go to jail, I should probably add that all the sound used for this podcast should be free of royalties and free to use under the Creative Commons license for non-commercial use. Joseph Aschbacher and the James Webb Telescope audios were from ESA TV. The SpaceX landing was from SpaceX. The audio of Richard Branson goes to the YouTube channel of Richard himself. The Perseverance audio was from NASA TV, and the Nauka audio was from Roscosmos, and the ASAT attack audio from the ISS.